Well, guardianship and conservatorship is definitely a measure of last resort, and there's a lot you can do before getting to that point. In fact, you want to do all those things to demonstrate that guardianship and conservatorship is necessary. Part of what you can do to help a loved one is bring on some services from Metta Johnson Associates Care Management. There are care managers throughout the state, so throughout the United States.
Step back and actually tell our audience what that means. What is a care manager? What does a care manager do?
Care manager helps oversee and coordinate issues for people living with complex medical issues, disabilities, or aging issues. So we are professionals that serve as consultants to provide recommendations and help carry out care for someone. Again, sometimes it's someone may just have complex medical issues, or it may be to the point where they need guardianship and conservatorship. So we have, proxy decision-making things such as healthcare power of attorney, which may help in a case where you're trying to assist in someone making medical decisions. With those documents, the proxy is a co-pilot, is not taking over the decision-making. And there's also the concept of what's called supported decision-making. So again, let's say there's a proposed ward. We haven't got to that point yet, but the person that needs help, they have someone at their side that helps inform them, give them options, but that person still has all of the rights to make their decisions. And if that all fails, then you would need to move on to guardianship and conservatorship. I think that's one of the things that the critics of guardianship and conservatorship forget, is that usually by the time it gets to guardianship and conservatorship, these have been tried. One of the cornerstones of guardianship and conservatorship is that the person, the proposed ward, it's assumed that they don't want the guardianship and conservatorship, that they feel they can make decisions on their own. And so usually by the time you get there, there's been some kind of event or a series of events often that have demonstrated that their safety is at risk without it in place.
Yeah, and can I piggyback on what Michael said? A couple of things. First of all, care managers, you would think I would get paid by these care managers the way I promote them, advertise them. There are no kickbacks. Occasionally I get a lunch, but usually we're paying for ourselves. So there's never that issue.
Little defensive, aren't you?
What? Well, I just want to make sure people know that this is a decision, that I love care managers. And in Georgia, we are so blessed. I've worked with care managers in other states. We are so blessed to have care managers like Michael. We've worked with a variety of care managers throughout the state, and they are absolute godsends in helping family members keep people out of guardianships, maintain independence. And even when there's guardianships, and particularly if you have a lot of family infighting, they do a great job of taking care of the person that is the subject of the guardianship and keeping them out of those family disputes. Cannot say enough good things about a care manager. And also with respect to guardianship and conservatorship itself, just wanting to emphasize again, this is a process of last resort. The first thing we don't do is say, oops, mom's losing her memory, time to go to court. It really should be taking a look at what options are available. But usually by the time somebody hits my office, those options those have been tried and they've been done.
What are some of those options?
Of course, powers of attorney are a great option, although I'm beginning to develop very mixed feelings about them. First of all, powers of attorney can only be done if that person has capacity. Okay, so I get the phone calls, hi, mom went into a coma and I need to get power of attorney. It's too late. If they don't have capacity, what's called capacity to contract, so if they can't sign a contract and make sense of it, power of attorney option is pretty much done. Trust, you can create a trust for finances. A trust can be a really great option for managing funds and keep people out of a conservatorship as well. And again, you want an attorney to help you draft a trust. Don't try drafting a trust yourself. Healthcare gets a little more tricky. because we do have advanced directives for healthcare in Georgia, which is the healthcare proxy, which allows somebody to act on your behalf. But what's interesting about those is that the standard to execute to sign a power of attorney for healthcare is different. It's much lower than for a financial power of attorney. So you can actually be incapacitated and rip up your advanced directive and it's valid. If you're incapacitated and rip up your your financial power of attorney, arguably that's not valid, but I'm not going to go to court about that. I'm just going to file a conservatorship. It's not worth arguing to a judge whether or not they had the capacity to do that. It's just, it's a waste of time and money, although in theory it's doable. But that's not true with the advanced directive for healthcare. So also there are provisions in place outside of the statute that just, if I walked into a hospital and didn't have anything, this Georgia law actually dictates who in priority can make medical decisions on my behalf. So there are alternatives to using that. But again, because you can be incapacitated, the right to refuse medical care is a fundamental right. And in fact, I don't want to get too much on a tangent here, but so there are options for that, but it's a much tougher, those options are, I think, a lot more limited in the healthcare world than in the financial world, because that person doesn't lose their right to make medical decisions or all of their medical decisions simply because of incapacity.